Holocult. We all know that the internet is not a safe place, especially when you're in our line of work. We're constantly looking up nefarious conspiracies, putting out FOIA requests, looking into dropped FBI files. That's why we here in the Holo Layer trust our ISP to ExpressVPN. I know most of you are probably thinking, why don't you just use incognito mode? Well, let me tell you something. Incognito mode does not hide your activity. It doesn't matter what mode you use or how many times you clear your browsing history. Your internet service provider can still see every single website you've ever visited. That's why even when we're at home, we never go online without using ExpressVPN.
That's right. We don't need any more of our information floating around out there. ExpressVPN is an app that reroutes your internet connection through their secure servers so your ISP can't be seen with any of the sites you visit. ExpressVPN also keeps all your information secure by encrypting it 100% of your data with the most powerful encryption out there. ExpressVPN is also available on all of your devices, phones, computers, tablets, even your smart TVs. So there's no excuse as to why you should not be using something like this when it comes to protecting yourself and protecting your data.
Protect your online activity today with the VPN rated #1 by CNET and Mashable. Visit our exclusive link, expressvpn.com/hollow1, and you can get an extra 3 months free on a 1-year package. That's expressvpn.com/HOLO1, expressvpn.com/hollow1 to learn more. Welcome back to the Hollow Sky Podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Steven.
And I'm Kyle.
And it's Monday. So you know what that means. We're here to help you get through another work week, as we should. Because that's what we do.
Help me help you.
Help us help you help us. Helping you.
True story.
It's simple science if you don't think about it. Kyle is diving into probably multi-parter, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Heck yeah. So that is exciting. I am looking over his shoulder, and the title is Abducting a Scientist, so I am on board.
It's going to be pretty decent.
I am on board. Thanks for hanging out with us today. We appreciate you all. Keep the Hollow Cult moving. Before we can jump into this abduction, we've got to get through the business. So check us out at all our social medias, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Discord, Reddit. Search up the Hollow Sky Podcast, and you'll find us there. Come be part of the community, join the cult, and just hang out. It's a good time. If you have a paranormal experience, something unexplained, something creepy that's happened to you, that you'd like for us to feature on our Thursday show and hear me and Kyle talk about it, get some feedback from us, feedback from the rest of the Hollow Cult, Kyle's got some info you're going to want to take down in order to share these encounters.
Write it down, take a picture, record it. hollowskypodcast@gmail.com. That's going to be the email you need to send us your encounter. Please include as much detail as you possibly can, because every little bit matters. And if you don't, then me and Steve can't properly diagnose your situation.
Kyle is a factologist.
I am a factologist.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And I am a ghost scientist.
Yeah, I seen it. I seen the degree.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, it is what it is.
It really is.
It is what it is. But please get us your stories. We appreciate each and every one of you that is able to submit to us. We like hearing about all the weird stuff and talking about it. It really makes us happy. So if you want to make us happy, send us over your weird encounter so we can talk about it. Have a good time.
Just do it.
Yeah.
It's cool.
It's easy.
If you'd like to support the show, there's plenty of ways you can do it. First off, check out the Patreon. Because probably by now, everybody that's listening to this that's a Patreon member has encountered the new Dark Array Media roster members, Casket Breath.
Growing huge.
So you'll get more of that over there, which is the new band put together that is going to be probably Patreon exclusive until we can get an album together, and then we might post some digitals up on the store.
Hell yes.
But we're going to try to keep it as episodically connected as we can. By this time, you've probably already heard the track Rain in Hell about the Jersey Devil.
It's going to be awesome.
And the track Submit to the Depths about the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah, they're good.
So that's what we're doing now.
They're good.
Before any of you other nerds jump on the bandwagon and start doing this, remember that we were here first.
Numero uno.
So I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, Patreon members are going to get those full tracks first off and get them little doozies. The first two tracks, pretty heavy. We don't know what genre we're going to go for, but the first two, pretty heavy.
It's awesome.
We might go, I don't know.
You never know.
Bluegrass, dark country.
Dark country had some good vibes to her.
R&B, whatever we can do.
Yeah.
But it's going to be heat every time.
Every time.
So, yeah, get ready for that, Patreon. You're probably already there. You probably turned it on and was like, what in the fuck is this?
Yeah.
And then you immediately shut it off. But that's fine. I know some people out there appreciate it. There's some metalheads out there. RU's probably throwing up the horns right now.
Oh, he's stoked.
So, yeah, that's happening. That's happening. Hollow Sky's first on the Dark Array Media roster, and Casket Breath is second.
Yeah.
We are a multimedia company, ladies and gentlemen.
What we do. That's what we do.
No rest for the wicked.
No.
We don't have time to touch grass.
That's right.
Because we're beating ass.
That's right.
In life.
That's right.
So yeah, join the Patreon and you get that good stuff. You can also go to our web store and get some merch because that's cool. HollowSkyPodcast.com. You can get some shirts. Like I said, hopefully eventually there'll be a digital album over there of these tracks that you can purchase for your ear holes.
It's going to be awesome.
I'm
going to buy like 16 of them.
Yeah. Yeah. The best thing you can do is share the show word of mouth. Check us out. As you can tell, we're pretty excited about this.
Yeah,
pretty
it's
excited.
awesome.
We're meshing our two favorite things, weirdness and music.
Yep.
Heavy music right now. We don't know where that's going to go right now.
Yeah.
So share the show word of mouth because that helps us out. And we want to move forward, not backwards. You can also go to wherever you check your podcast, your podcatcher that is, and leave us a 5-star rating and review. If I find it, I'll shout you out. I will do it. This week's listener, not listener experience, but listener review comes to us from our friend Steve. First off, Steve, banger name, hella good name. So you got that going for you. Steve says 5 stars, heat every time, fire emoji. I listen to a bunch of podcasts, some on similar topics and some way off. Lots of pop culture pods, paranormal, music, even wrestling podcasts. I'm all over the place and a mix between logical thinker and way outside the box skeptic. I can honestly say this is the only podcast where I listen to every episode regardless of topic, and sometimes I don't even check the topic first. I know the discussion is going to be entertaining, make me think about something in ways I didn't think before, and likely be something creepy that I've never heard on prior to this show. Keep bringing the heat. Love what y'all do. Steve. Steve, bro.
My guy.
Loving it. Love hearing about it. What wrestling podcasts do you listen to? Because I listen to some too. Busted Open, whatever Jim Cornette's podcast is. I know he's a little, you either like him or you don't, but yeah, I'm there. So thanks, Steve, for taking the time to leave us some good words and not leave us some trash.
It's appreciated.
And from there, we're diving right in.
Let's do this.
We're choke slamming this episode.
Let's do this. This topic's weird and ironically enough hits close to home, which I did not know whenever I got the book. I just picked it. I'm like, hey, let me get this book. And I started reading it. And this encounter happens to Bruce E. Rapuano.
Yeah.
It's all taken from his book called Dominion Lost. A little bit about Bruce. He's got a BA degree from the University of Pennsylvania. He majored in neurobiology and minored in psychology.
Smart dude.
Yeah, he had a PhD in neuropharmacology from the University of Connecticut and a JD from New York Law School.
Jesus.
He's a pretty
sharp cookie.
Yeah, yep. He also conducted independent biomedical research as a cell biologist at medical institutions, including Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center and the Hospital for Special Surgery, both of which are in New York City.
Of course he did.
He has also authored or co-authored over 30 different scientific articles in peer-reviewed medical journals. So, dude, like, you can't argue that this guy is dumb.
He knows his stuff.
Yeah, he's extremely intelligent and accomplished. But to his encounter, June 19th, 1965 in New Haven, Connecticut. Bruce and all the little neighborhood homies were outside playing kickball when at about 8 o'clock p.m., something happens that would forever impact his life and probably everyone else's life. As they were playing, he noticed a bright white light in the sky. He said it was massive, at least 2.5 times the size of a full moon. Some of the children decided to join Bruce because Bruce seen this and started to kind of gravitate toward it. So they followed him. You know, where are you going, Bruce? Oh, that's what you're looking at. All right. As they're watching it, Bruce recalls that they watched it for roughly 30 to 60 seconds. So it was a short period. And this thing just sat there floating in the air. The light was so bright that people had a hard time looking at it. Bruce does what Bruce does and turns the smart on here. He starts to analyze the bright light and how many megawatts of energy it would take to create that kind of light. Obviously, this is Bruce now looking back on his encounter. He did not do this as a child.
I just pictured little nerd Bruce.
He might have. I don't know. I'm going to assume that he didn't.
Standing there looking at that and like, yeah, it's going to take probably 158 million megawatts of energy to produce this light from this angle.
Exactly.
But for real, though, just hearing him talk about playing kickball at dusk, like it takes me directly back to my childhood. Yeah. And how we would have all reacted exactly the same way. Not necessarily trying to figure out how many megawatts is
right. That definitely wouldn't have happened.
But we all would have been like, holy crap,
yeah.
What is that? And we would have just stood there, slack-jawed, just at the mercy of whatever this thing was.
Exactly. So Bruce kind of elaborates on his thought process here. He says, a craft traveling in Earth's atmosphere can create a form of ionization in atmospheric gases called plasmas that can also produce light from electrons. The vibrational kinetic energy of electrons in the atmosphere or atmospheric atoms could be increased by things like thermal radiation, from solid or liquid fuel rockets or nuclear reactors. It could even be an electromagnetic field to push back against the Earth's magnetic field. This would attract free electrons around its field lines, which would increase the rate of collision with atmospheric atoms that would then excite their electrons to create plasmas and light. Even beyond all that, he states that plasmas can arise simply from the thermal radiation produced by frictional forces between a vehicle moving at many times the speed of sound and atmospheric gases. In the end of all this smartness here, he's more or less theorizing that the light that's being seen is nothing more than a byproduct of the UFO's propulsion system. And he goes on to state that that byproduct, even though that light is so bright that it hurts their eyes, that byproduct is still minuscule in the amount of energy that these crafts are able to create.
Dude, I'm sitting here and I'm listening to him talk about electrons and plasma, and I am hoping that this is what's going on through little Bruce's head.
Maybe it is. Maybe he's a little Jimmy Neutron type kid.
I hope so, because that's awesome. Here, I would be just standing there, kickball bouncing off the side of my head, looking at a UFO, and this dude's over there calculating. Infinity.
And you know, with a person that intelligent, they've been intelligent all their life.
Oh yeah,
that doesn't usually just spring on somebody. I don't know. It's definitely interesting to get the both perspective of him being a child and then him looking back, and then you have all this smartness, and he does kind of try to dumb it down a little bit as he goes, which is it's nice for people like me. But oddly enough, going back to the root experience here, his young brain is expanding on what he is seeing. However, as this is happening, he begins to process something different within the environment. It becomes disturbingly quiet, which at the time of the night, in the middle of the summer, the surrounding noises are almost deafening to a degree. And we've all experienced that. We've all been out there where, like right now, the cicadas are just going full bore, or you have the crickets at night. You have all these ambient noises that are constant. And we've heard it in several stories of when these encounters take place. And most of the ones when me and Steve are diving into it, they're not even UFO related. It's just these odd situations arise and it all goes quiet.
Yeah. I mean,
just deathly still.
Yeah. At least we don't think they're UFO.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Because I mean, dude, I don't even know. You hear about it across so much of the paranormal, like it almost ties all the phenomena together.
It's weird.
It is weird.
It's weird, but even stranger yet. So Bruce is looking at this light and he notices the change in the environment. So he turns his head back to the woods and he really begins to focus in and listen for insects. Like maybe his focus is so much on this light that he is blocking out the noises. As you can imagine, there isn't any. But he did notice another of the kickball players standing next to him. And he notes that this kid was silent and frozen in place. He also notes here that he wishes he had not seen any of it, and he wants to mentally disassociate himself from this entire situation, which reminds me so much of people like me and people who have talked to us and emailed us, where we just try to fall back asleep when something like this happens. Like we completely just try to pull the plug on the situation and not even acknowledge it.
Yep. Disassociate's the best term that he could have used. And
yeah.
He did. Another aspect that I find creepy, and we kind of talked about it, was the fact that his kickball buddies are just paralyzed.
Yeah.
Almost like a state of hypnosis. And I've read not a bunch of cases, but a few cases where they use that term hypnosis, which is really gross to me. That whatever this phenomena is, whatever these crafts are, have that ability to just put people in that state where they do not remember. They wake up to missing time. Sometimes you hear that they do things in this missing time that they can't remember doing. It's the worst.
It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's extremely uncomfortable. But while he's doing this, he looks around and he feels like he's being completely disconnected from his surroundings. Like time had somehow come to a stop. And it's gross because I remember when I was having problems with my ear, I described to you, Steve, how I felt like I had a mask on, like I was there, but I'm not there. Like I had this really disassociating feeling with my surroundings at the time.
Yeah, I do remember that.
And it's weird to read him write this. And then I'm like, man, that's almost kind of how I felt on a day-to-day thing when I was talking to Steve, when I was having all these, what I would consider ear problems. And I'm not comparing, my ear to this situation. It's definitely weird to hear someone describe something so similar. But I can relate to that feeling, and it's a terrible feeling. But anyways, the light finally goes off, and I'm talking about the bright light in the sky. Finally, that light goes away, and in its place is a perfectly round, reddish orange fireball object. He could tell that the object was moving without any vapor trails. He followed the object. He starts walking through people's yards, and he starts to count 1,000, 1,000, and he gets to 90 seconds before the object finally disappears. After it's all over, Bruce's brother called the cops and gives a report. They end up taking notes, and one of the officers, he's like, I don't think it's anything. But Bruce also noticed how this cop looked extremely frightened. And Bruce also notes that it's another one of them cases, Steve, where the cops show up oddly faster than what you would think they would.
That's weird.
Definitely weird.
And especially with Bruce being a little kid. Does it say how old he was at the time?
I think he was about 10 years old.
So the cop is probably trying to just put that to bed. Like, don't worry about a little guy.
Yeah.
And in the back of his mind, he's like, oh, shit.
Yeah, this sucks. But Bruce, he ends up talking to some of his friends about the situation. And one of the boys that was standing up there with him, he reports that he saw sparks or lightning coming from the red UFO after the light had gone out. Now, Bruce is like, I didn't see this. He assumed it had to, he assumed that the lightning section of it had to do with some type of electrostatic discharge, but he was confused on why he was unable to see it. Bruce's mother had actually been watching out the window during the sighting and said that she saw a group of 3 lights, each a different color, in the vicinity of the object. As it progresses, and people from the scene kind of lay it out collectively that the people who witnessed this noticed 3 transitions of the UFO. So you have the first part being the bright light. Then it changes to 3 multicolored lights. And from there, it goes to a red fireball that has this lightning that shoots off of it. And beyond that, as I'm assuming what Bruce sees, it's the same red light, the same red fireball type image that is just on its own. There's no lightning, no nothing. It's finally moving away and it drops out of vision.
It's interesting that they're seeing this residual kind of burn off with the weird sparks and the lightning and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And I haven't heard any reports like that before.
Not right offhand. I'm just wondering if you would think if it was some sort of like plasma propulsion, there wouldn't, those things sound very like combustible engine kind of connection,
right?
Like with the sparks and shit. I don't know. It's just weird to me.
It is weird. But Bruce starts to ask himself, he's like, all right, why the fuck didn't I see any of these forms? And the answer that starts to kind of unfold sucks. After the encounter, the kids all went back to this large oak tree in the neighborhood, and they start to kind of talk about what just happened. When they do this, one of the girls ends up asking Bruce a question that he wasn't quite prepared for. She goes, "Bruce, where'd you go?" And
that's the worst.
He argues this. He's like, "What are you talking about? I was fucking right there. I was watching the whole thing." And she was adamant on like, "No, you were not here." So with the fact that now, according to this girl, he has gone missing, and then you sprinkle in that he had only taken his eyes off of this object for roughly 3 seconds when he looked at that kid next to him that seemed to be turned off. So he's like, all right, there's some definite discrepancies going on here. So at this point, had he been taken? Had there been some type of image overlay for himself? Or was some type of overlay placed on top of all the other witnesses? I feel like whatever took place happened with Bruce. But is there something here that just warps reality in general? Because it's easily considered that aliens have the ability to warp reality and impose change on our environment. But what in the cases of Bigfoot, dogmen, or other strange creatures and situations? The strange thing in this entire situation is that Bruce was likely taken at the beginning of his sighting because he missed all the transitions of the UFO.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's also reported that in these cases of missing time, the memory will seamlessly be edited like a movie. So he would only end up remember seeing it as the white light, and then like watching it slowly transition to the red, and then as it's going away. Which is, it's so uncomfortable to sit and think that there is something out there that has the ability to edit your memory.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it almost falls into the realm of hypnosis again.
It does.
Where you can implant false memories.
It's so uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable.
It sucks. Stop, aliens, if you're listening, stop doing this.
Stop editing our memory.
You too, government.
That's no shit. But what's even more bizarre about all this, he has memories of all the others being frozen in place, or what he refers to as turned off. On top of that, the little girl was able to notice he was gone. So what exactly went wrong with this abduction, so to speak? Why was she able to see that he was missing when no one else could?
Yeah.
Where's the gap here? On top of all that, when it comes to these types of situations, is there a radius effect? At what point does this effect stop? Could it be a situation where they set the net out and I'm turned off now, and Steve's on the other side of the street and he's just fine. So now he's looking over at me like, what the fuck is wrong with Kyle? Like, he's just standing there staring off into space. You know what I mean? Like, how does that work?
Testing it, essentially.
How does that work?
I wonder if the little girl, since she noticed that Bruce was gone, if she noticed the rest of the kids just in that stance.
I don't know.
Hypnosis state.
And the other question I impose is, and you have to take this loosely, but it's the best way I could phrase it, are these effects contagious?
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Almost like it's like a hypnosis virus.
That's
Like when you notice it, it just kind of, it goes to you now too.
That sucks.
Because it doesn't seem logical because this was in a neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
And there's kids outside playing kickball. I'm sure parents are out meandering around, you know?
Oh, yeah. Mowing lawns.
So why, it just makes you wonder.
Did it shut the whole town down?
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's got to be a stopping point somewhere to it. There has to be.
Weird.
And it's just, as I'm reading it, it's one of them situations that just kind of fucks with my mind where I'm like, how does this work? There has to be like a cone. There has to be, unless it's like this mind virus thing that can just jump from everybody who takes notice in it. I don't know.
And it's weird. It is weird that the little girl was Holocult. Summer is here. So you know what that means. Paranormal investigations and cryptid hunts abound. But before you do that, you're going to need some good clothing. So we're excited to announce another month partnering with Tecovas.
I feel like at this point, it's mandatory to have amazing clothes while you're out cryptid chasing or ghost hunting. Because with Tecovas, every boot you can expect handmade quality, first wear comfort, and timeless Western style. And nothing says like you're there for business, like walking in a pair of snakeskin boots. And with it being summer, like Steve said, they also have some sweet short sleeve moisture wicking pearl snaps that are definitely going to put you on the next level. And if you need to carry some stuff, like all your ghost hunting gear, you can use their ever-growing lineup of rugged and full-grain leather bags that are always going to get you where you need to be.
And to keep cool, they also have men's and women's straw hats. So you're definitely going to want to check them out.
That's perfect for keeping the sun off your head and getting sunburn up there.
The best way to shop for boots is at your local Tecovas stores, where you'll be greeted by the smell of fresh leather and a friendly smile. Come on in, grab a cold one, get fitted by a pro, and shop all the latest styles. I personally am waiting for the cryptid lineup, where I can get me a pair of like Loveland Frogman skin boots, maybe some Loch Ness Monster.
Oh, yeah. Imagine that Loch Ness boot.
Smooth. But until then, you can visit Tecovas.com. That's TECOVAS.com. And don't go gently, y'all. Disconnected enough to notice that Bruce was gone.
Yeah. So I start to read on, and Bruce tries to toss out a possible explanation to this entire situation, or at least that the girl noticing him. He basically states, is it possible that in the beginning, everyone besides Bruce was switched off? Then when he was taken, everyone ends up getting switched back on. And then once again, as he's being returned, everyone is switched off again until after he's returned. So it's this on-off process where maybe there was a gap created for this girl just long enough time to notice he wasn't there. Because maybe it was one of them things where he's walking through the neighbor's yard looking at his object. She's looking at him. They all get switched off. They take him, switch him back on, and now he's completely gone from her vision. And so she's like, what the fuck? And then they go to bring him back, and then they freeze it and then return him and so on and so forth. And she's like, oh, he is there. He's in a little different spot, but he's there.
Could be like, it could just be the only thing that's different too. Like one of those find the difference pictures, The only thing, when she snaps back to, the only thing that's different is Bruce isn't there. She notices and they snap her back out.
Yeah. It's so weird. This book is already making me like think outside the box on these situations. Like I even put a side note here, and it's not that it's completely related, but it's interesting thought process. We all know, or at least have heard, that the governments, namely ours, have made deals with ETs to allow for abductions and testing. How terrifying is it to think that in a lot of cases, we may experience this without even knowing it? Furthermore, does everyone remember that short little fade, or that short little fad of the freeze challenge?
Oh, yeah.
Where people would post videos of them frozen in place and they wouldn't react to anything for long periods of time.
I do remember that. What a weird fad.
Yeah, but it's also fucking bizarre that you're having 10-year-old Bruce essentially describe the fad to a degree.
That is weird.
Not that it's related, but it is a very weird thought process.
I mean, and even making deals beyond that, like Max Spears was adamant that like 95% of abduction cases are not alien. They are governmental.
Right.
Governmental, using it as some sort of smokescreen, some sort of scapegoat to do whatever they need to do, and then not have to take the blame.
And I mean, I could see it.
Especially if they got technologies.
I mean, like I said, I could see it because when it comes to pharmaceutical drugs, anything, human testing is always so fucking hard to get to. Yeah, a lot of these dudes are impatient and they don't give a shit.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
Why not? Right? Why not? But in this story so far, it's pretty relatable for me, to be honest, because I've told these stories before, and I'll quickly elaborate again for the people that haven't listened or just don't remember. When I was younger, I had a few encounters that were questionable, to say the least, from seeing a figure in my room to having a large black dog and noises on the roof and also around the house. I had dreams of light bars scanning the room, which
is terrifying.
Yeah, and then it all kind of concludes to the sighting my wife and I had, where she woke up saying someone was shining a light into the room, which you can relate to my dreams prior, and Bruce here seeing this insanely bright light. Then I get up, look out the window, and mind you, it's 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning, and I see a giant orange ball off in the distance traveling what you would consider away from us. Really fucking bizarre, right?
I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
So, just like that, we're going to dive a little deeper into Bruce's past here. He can recall a time when he was younger, about 3 years old, when his mother and him were walking up the stairs to get to their apartment. He states that there were 36 stairs to home, and that's what she always used to tell him. Well, on the 35th stair this day, his mother picked him up and placed him on the 36th stair. But during this time, that process of her picking him up triggers what he calls a sensory memory. He can remember having two small childlike beings on either side of him. They were pure white and extremely intelligent. Bruce looked at them like they were mentors. And he was kind of pissed that they weren't around, because he thought to himself, like, how do you justify leaving me with human parents that could not teach me half as much as what you could teach me? He also remembers having dreams of him flying with these same figures. Bruce does his homework and finds several cases that resemble this same situation. However, in all these cases, it seems that they were abductions onto a craft, usually with two beings being reported on either side of the person being taken. All accounts seem to fit these little white childlike beings. There's even a case where two members of the UN Secretary General's security detail witness a woman floating out of her fucking apartment in Lower Manhattan at 3 a.m. on November 30th, 1989. She was accompanied by 3 small alien figures.
Did we talk about that before?
I think we have loosely talked about it.
Yeah. I've heard that. That is.
And these dudes
Like,
saw
what?
her being taken to an enormous reddish orange UFO that was hovering over a 12-story apartment building.
That's so weird.
It's fucking bizarre that there are more than one case.
The reddish orange.
The reddish orange fucking... And they're being described as big, too, because the one me and my wife saw was fucking huge. It looked like an orange moon off in the distance, minus all the details. It was just solid orange, and it's just slowly moving away.
Yeah, that's awful.
Fucking weird. Now, Bud Hopkins actually investigated that case and talked to the woman who ends up having regression, and she remembers being taken out of her apartment in the same area as the security detail who had the broken down car. The UN guys had seen this in the same area, which I didn't mention. They were stopped because their car had stalled out. However, it was reported by other people in that area of their cars being stalled out as well.
What?
Yeah. So Bruce basically comes to the conclusion that it's possible that this UFO is able or just generates a large, powerful electromagnetic field.
Like a giant EMP.
Like a giant EMP.
Because I don't know that I've ever heard multiple, like car stalling out is a commonality of UFO abduction.
Yep.
But hearing that there were multiple accounts of it is strange.
Right.
Happening at the same time.
And then you have the fucking security guys seeing this woman being taken out of her fucking apartment. Dude, that alone would blow my fucking mind to smithereens.
Yeah.
Absolutely blow my mind.
It is, yeah.
So, I don't know, but going back in Bruce's life, he recalls one summer night, and this is so fucking weird to me. This section is so weird to me. Because I don't know that I've ever told anybody about this.
Uh-oh. We're in the tea now.
Yeah, it's not crazy, but it's just it's weird. So Bruce recalls one summer night a glint of light from his bedroom window. And as he looks out his window, he would see an object in the sky. He thinks it's a plane at first, but its dimensions are all fucked up. It's clearly a UFO. The thing that gets me, he has trouble recalling some of the details. And the way he describes it in the book is just so similar to something that is buried in my brain. Ever since I was a kid, I've told the story of the pixelated alien in my bedroom. The window gets hit, wakes me up, and then I see it. But I can vividly remember, I cannot remember the encounter. But I have a memory of something similar to this. And it's just that, it's a memory. Like I can't visualize the encounter, but I can still remember around this time of seeing the pixelated alien thing. I can remember being in school and drawing a picture of a UFO in the field right outside my house. My little mind at the time was 100% convinced that a UFO had landed in the cornfield next to my house. But I cannot visually recall this encounter. I can only recall little me drawing pictures of this.
That's creepy.
And this would be before this would be like the prelude to me getting into the paranormal. Having that encounter, that whole situation unfold is what brings me into the paranormal.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be heavily influenced by outside media and stuff.
Because I didn't know. I just remember drawing pictures of it and being 100% convinced that that's what I saw. But I cannot recreate, I cannot visualize, I don't have that memory.
That's creepy.
And I've never told anybody that before because it's always like I've never been able to visualize that experience. So I didn't know to this day, I wouldn't be able to sit here and tell you that I didn't make it up at some point or anything to that degree. Because I cannot verify that memory for myself. But it makes you question, did I make up a scenario? Did my mind create it to cope with the entity in my room?
That's bizarre.
And since that those series of events, I've always been like a hardcore believer in extraterrestrials. And when I speak about these subjects, I always leave room for possibility because I simply don't know the truth on these subjects. I may feel a certain way. However, I would like to leave room for opinions and facts to enter the arena and kind of help make sense of all of it. But anyways, Bruce thought he does something we all... Oh, I'm sorry. Even with Bruce, though, he does something we all do. And now I'm even more curious on this topic because we've had so many people with the same reaction. So Bruce is seeing this object out there, right? This craft, he witnesses a static discharge from the back of it, like lightning. It's weird. He turns his head away and tries to fall back asleep. Unplugs, tries to go back to sleep.
It's almost like that's part of the hypnosis.
Well, keep that in mind. And just like that, Bruce now has the exact same thoughts. He says, was this an unidentified consciousness, if not covert mind control, during a transcendent experience? Was he being made to look away from the strange plane, put it all out of his mind, and fall back asleep? Because that's exactly what I did without knowing it. And how many of us do that shit?
We've heard dozens and dozens and dozens of people be put into encounters, not even solely UFO encounters, but encounters with the phenomena, who end up with that exact ending of their encounter. I rolled over and I went to bed.
Dude, it gives me goosebumps.
Yeah. I pulled the covers over my head and I went to sleep.
We've heard so many people talk about this.
Yeah.
And because I can remember people saying, I don't understand how anyone could fall asleep after seeing this or experience. And it's weird. You just fucking like, it's not even a thought process. Like you're just like, nope, going back to bed.
Yeah. Like it's part of the control. Like
it's so fucking weird, man. It's so fucking weird. And like when I was telling you about how I thought maybe I had the implant and then I just threw it away. And you were like, that's
part of the program.
That's part of the thing. Like that's what you do. You don't think about it. You just take it and you throw it away.
Yep. And then people don't put that together until all these are already thrown away.
Yeah, exactly. It's just so bizarre, man. It's so fucking bizarre.
It'd be cool to find accounts of the phenomenon that link up like that, like getting rid of your own implant and essentially rolling over and going to bed in the middle of probably one of the strangest encounters of your life.
Dude,
just saying,
it's
hell with it.
fucking weird, man. But from here, it turns into a very different situation than anything I've knowingly experienced. So most people, that's where their story ends, right? They turn over, they go to sleep, they wake up the next morning. Well, Bruce apparently can recall some a little bit more information here. So he ends up waking up on a large table. As he sits up, he sees dozens of little beings in front of him. 2 of them were the exact same ones that he had from his sensory memory. Bruce states that they were all white and about 3.5 to 4 feet tall. All of them looked exactly the same. They moved with purpose. And dozens of them were moving about, and they were doing it so, I imagine like a chaotic scene where all these little beings are moving about, and he's like, not one of them runs into each other. They're not bumping it. It feels like they're almost like they're little robots.
Like some weird kind of like line cook thing going on.
It's weird. Yeah. Well, he says that it doesn't take long, and he feels a force start pushing him on the chest, and it pushes him back down, and he passes out. From there, he wakes up in the morning. The years that follow, he was convinced that he went through one of the strangest medical procedures with the oddest group of doctors.
That's weird.
Yeah. Bruce was... So he starts looking into this, and he was able to find a few reports that kind of match his experience. One woman reports being taken to a hangar-like place with roughly 100 to 200 medical tables in it. Another one reports 50. So you have 2 different encounters of these people being taken to places with anywhere from 50 to 200 different tables, which is terrifying.
Yeah, it kind of leans toward that Max Spears theory.
That makes me
governmental.
That makes me feel governmental.
Yeah.
Or it's part of the bargain. But I feel like I feel more governmental than bargain with aliens.
Because aliens are in and out of here, can control our minds, can pretty much do whatever the fuck they want. You wouldn't think they'd have to take people 200 at a time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And unless they're fucking here working, they wouldn't necessarily use a hangar either, logically thinking. Not saying that it doesn't happen.
Because one person is way easier to control than 200.
Yeah.
You get 200 people starting to wake up and freak out, it's gonna be a mess.
It'd be a little chaotic, be a little weird for a minute.
You even hear encounters of people being abducted metaphysically.
Yeah.
Their physical bodies stay in one spot.
Yeah.
But their life source, their soul, whatever, their consciousness, whatever you want to call it, is
elsewhere.
What's taken.
Yeah.
And when you kind of connect the dots, people talking about feeling like they're being pulled through their ceiling, or pulled through a wall, and it's not their physical body; it's their metaphysical being.
That's so gross.
Yeah, you don't have any sort of defense against that. And then if you think about it in a larger perspective, like when people do unlock the bounds of consciousness by meditating, by experimental drugs, or near-death experiences, this, that, or the other, that's how they make contact with these things. So it almost makes sense in that realm that they're coming after you via your consciousness.
Yeah.
Because it's all in one thought process, it would almost be easier to control that because we don't have a physical body to fight back. But on the other hand, we don't know what our consciousness is capable of. And
that still kind of plays to it'd be easier to deal with because we wouldn't know how to control it anyway.
Yeah,
so
yeah. Sorry, I went on a tangent there.
No, it's good.
Rolling.
I like it. He found another one where a man had experienced where they were putting something under his ear with a needle. It was a pill-shaped object with tiny, tiny wires that came out each, or the sides of it. And they told him, with this implanted in you, you are easier for us to follow.
That sucks.
Yeah. Bruce ends up finding a series of accounts where these aliens are putting implants in people, and they're putting them in people through their ears and into their brains, or behind the ears, and I'm assuming into the brain, or maybe just behind the ears. But it starts to raise questions for him because he has had ear troubles since the time he was on the table. So he is at a point in his life now, and this is where I'm going to end it, but he's at a point now where he's like, fuck, have my ear troubles been a part of this? Did they put one of them fucking things in my head?
Yeah. I mean, because on one hand, you could ask, did he have ear trouble prior to the kickball encounter? But then this is just the first encounter that he remembers. You know what I mean?
Well, you see, no. So the kickball encounter is after these encounters.
Oh.
Because he's now remembering back in time.
Okay. I got you now.
So I don't remember which one. I don't know which one comes first. I want to say the sensory memory came the first. That was one of the first, I think. Because he had to have been little because his mom picks him up as they're walking up the stairs.
That makes
right?
sense. That makes sense.
And then later on, he has this where he's laying in bed and he sees this object out there.
That's weird.
So he's noticing now and kind of unlocking that bright light situation was not the beginning. He'd had a long run with these beings prior to that white light.
That's weird. I'm trying to, in my brain, make connections as to how, if he had an implant from younger, how that would affect his experience on the kickball field different from everybody else's. If that had any bearings.
That's a good point.
On. And maybe, I wonder if the girl, if she's had any weird experiences, since she was still semi-conscious to a certain degree. Because maybe they put her back early. She snaps out of it, sees that Bruce is gone. They're like, oh, shit, pop her back in, put Bruce back out. I don't know. It's weird, man. I don't know.
Dude, I don't know. I just know that it's a disgusting feeling to sit and think that these fuckers can turn you off whenever they want.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it wasn't broad daylight, obviously, because it was 8 p.m. But, dude, you have a whole neighborhood of kids out there playing kickball, and they're like, yeah, you're coming with us.
Yeah. Can you imagine as a parent looking outside, say your kids are down the street playing in the school parking lot, but you can still see it. It's just down the road. You look out there, and they're all just not moving, staring up at the sky.
Oh, dude, it scared the fuck out of me.
It'd be the worst.
Oh, man. I would take off running as fast as I could.
Yeah. And then all this ear stuff, I've had trouble with my ears forever.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because I went in, the last time I got a checkup, the doctor was checking my left ear, and they're like, man, you got an awful lot of scar damage on your drum. But I had tubes 750 times when I was young. So that probably did it.
That might have had something to do with it.
Being in constant metal bands and going to metal shows probably didn't help.
Yeah.
Being around constant heavy machinery didn't help.
Yeah.
But it is weird.
It's weird to think about.
Of these overlapping variables that show up.
Yeah. I'm excited to kind of keep digging more to this book because right now it's been highly relatable for me. I'm not saying that I went through any of this. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it's weird how oddly relatable this book is to my life and some of the encounters that I for sure had. I don't know about the ear stuff. Blade knows when I was a kid. I don't know. I can't prove that shit.
It is.
But it's fucking weird.
I don't think I believe in coincidence anymore, honestly. Or even synchronicity at this point. I was listening to an interview about Hellier, and they caught so much flack for using the term synchronicity the first time. Dana had said something, and I'm not going to quote it because I'm not remembering it right. But she said sometimes the importance of what we think is synchronicity isn't so much what's happening, but it's more so of us acknowledging the phenomena and it acknowledging, or us acknowledging it, acknowledging us. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's not so much the actual act, but it's that the act is paying attention to us, and then we eventually pay attention back.
I mean, I kind of like that.
Yeah. Because like you put all this stuff together, and you can't pin it all on synchronicity or coincidence. Yeah. The fact that so many things line up, you know, because you take all the UFO, take all of the abduction stuff out of it. You and him share a lot of commonalities.
Yeah.
But then you put it under that umbrella, and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, like this is gross.
Yeah. Oh shit.
This is oddly disturbing.
Yeah, it's weird.
It is weird
to hear his account and then watch you relate your account to it.
Yeah. While I'm reading it, I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Come on. And it's even dumber because it was literally a random pick. There was one book that I was gonna go for first, but it wasn't working on my Amazon account for whatever reason. So I'm like, well, fuck it. I'll just get this book because this book looks cool too. So it ends up beating it out. You know what I mean? Like, it's just weird.
Acknowledging the phenomenon.
Dude,
acknowledging you.
It's fucking weird, man. It really is weird.
I love it. Yeah, that was a heater, man. I like these ones that go 2 or 3 parts.
Yeah.
Because it leaves you wanting more, and it leaves you wanting like. I like mysteries. I like I'm gonna explain shit, but I also like things to be kind of like partitioned, wrapped up in a nice little bow at the end. Because I'm curious to see where he goes with this. So, yeah, definitely a heater. That's it for this episode. Hollow Cult, Hollow Ladies, Hollow Gentlemen. So, thanks for hanging out with us this Monday. Patreon members, we hope you enjoy what's going on over there, the introduction of Casket Breath. And be sure to tune in next week for part 2 of the Abduction of a Scientist. And until we meet again, stay safe, stay weird, and don't always write off weird happenings from your childhood as just weird happenings from your childhood. Because it could be way more sus.